Tavares is going to keep himself on the design keep. Gets a block to the 25, gets to the 30, 35, 40. Got a grass in front of him. 40, breaks out of a tackle. 25, 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Tristan Tavares.
Live from our Seton Hill University studios, this is Westmoreland on the Gridiron on the Westmoreland Sports Network. Here's your host, Sean Myers.
We welcome you into another episode of Westmoreland on the Gridiron here on the Westmoreland Sports Network. I am Sean. He is Dan. Thanks for tuning in once again. You know where to catch us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. on WSN. And Flick, we got a big show. Believe it or not, we have reached the halfway point of the high school football regular season. So we'll run down all the scores from week 4. We'll also look at the top performers from last Friday and Saturday. The plays of the week, the always popular segment. Interviews this week include Derry area head coach Mike Arone and Tasso Whipple, the star running back and linebacker for the Penn-Trafford Warriors. We also look ahead at the week 5 preview. Some teams have yet to open conference play. That will get underway this upcoming week. But the biggest takeaways from this past week, Flick, we had some notable conference games, including a big one in Class 1A, the Eastern Conference. Jeanette undefeated, Leechburg undefeated. And somewhat surprisingly, Jeanette undefeated no more. They fell at home to the Blue Devils in a game that really wasn't as close as I expected. I thought it'd be very competitive down to the final quarter, 35-13 in favor of the Blue Devils. I know they have an outstanding player in Jaden Floyd, but for Jeanette, the first time that they've really had a rough go of it this season. We'll see how they rebound, but I'm sure they're disappointed after that loss. Yeah, absolutely. And doing it at home, too, at McKee Stadium, I know how much pride that Coach Pallone and those guys have in protecting that stadium. And, to have Leechburg come in there and basically dominate, it was shocking for sure. But Jaden Floyd, man, he's the real deal. I talked with Ricky Pitzer after the game, and he was super impressed with the way that, he played against Jeanette. 4 touchdowns in the first half, 5 overall for that kid. And he also had interception on defense. It was pretty incredible. And, Jeanette's defense, I think, was the story of the game. If you're looking at it from the Jeanette side, just how they could not contain. They just didn't have an answer for him and the Leechburg offense. And certainly a big play in the game, too, Sean, just looking back at it. Jeanette had a touchdown in the first quarter called back because of a holding penalty. Could have been 14-7 at that point, but instead it gets called back. They give the ball back to Leechburg. They score a touchdown, and it's 21-0. So that was certainly a big, point of the game. And just too many turnovers, 3 turnovers for Jeanette. Mentioned the touchdown getting called back. And so offensively, they were able to do some things, but again, they shot themselves in the foot. And, again, defensively, when a team runs for 349 yards against you, you're not going to win too many games. And so I'm sure, they're very, very disappointed. And it always seems like it goes like this. You don't have any time to really regroup because you got Clairton coming up this Saturday for Jeanette. Yeah, that would have been, it's still going to be a massive game, but it would have been such a big game. It would have felt like, the biggest game of the week, maybe in the WPIAL, and certainly in Class 1A, had Jeanette won that, because people are saying, is Jeanette back? Is this the best version we've seen since they won a title? But those questions kind of go away a little bit. They still have some room to improve upon, certainly. Speaking of Floyd, you mentioned he had 5 touchdowns, but it's not like he just did this against Jeanette. I think he had 5 touchdowns the prior week as well. He has 18 on the season, so he's a really good player. Their coach, Randy Walters, has done a good job. Maybe ultimately long-term, not the worst thing in the world for Jeanette to suffer some, adversity to overcome. But to your point, they will have to play their best game by far this season, or else they could be looking at a 2-game losing streak. But still a long way to go. I think they're going to be a good team by the end of the season. They'll certainly be in the postseason discussion, but we'll see how they rebound after they fall for the first time. By the way, we had 3 Westmoreland County teams undefeated entering week 4. All 3 lost. So having that perfect record sometimes adds a little bit of pressure that goes along with it. A team that didn't have a perfect record, but for most of the night played nearly a perfect game, the Franklin Regional Panthers, they got a victory over Gateway in a crucial Big East showdown. The final score really a little misleading, 36-34 Panthers, but they were dominant for most of that game. Gateway got some late scores in the fourth quarter to make it a close game. But it was really the ground game, and Kyle Dupill once again for FR. And this is the second time in 3 years that they've knocked off Gateway. So they seem to have their number to some extent. They are now in a really good spot, and they show that they can win a low-scoring game, 3-0 against Greater Latrobe. They can win 36-34 against Gateway. I really like this team in the conference.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, how much does it show how good Upper St. Clair is to see what they did to Franklin Regional? I'd like to see those teams play again. Maybe they will in the playoffs. But Kyle Dupill, one of the greatest, gutsiest performances as a football player for Franklin Regional, really in their history. It has to be, right? To go into Gateway, obviously a great team year after year, and do what he did, 36 carries, 226 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Plus, Sean, he was pulled in the fourth quarter because of cramps. So he could have added to that, which is incredible. He had 66 yards on a drive, on an 86-yard scoring drive, I should say, in the third quarter. So they went 86 yards. He had 66 of those yards on the ground. That was incredible. And it was also nice to see, the running game really wasn't there in the first half. It really got on track in that third quarter. Chase Lemke ended up throwing 2 touchdown passes in the game, so it's almost as if maybe the passing game opened up the running game a little bit for Franklin Regional, and to be able to do that against Gateway, which I feel like always has a pretty good secondary, that was definitely even a bigger step forward, I think, for Chase Lemke to take in the game. And then, again, they win by just a couple of points, and you have to look at a big play in the game in which Gateway committed a safety. They had a option play, and the option pitch went back into their own end zone, and Franklin Regional recovered it. So that obviously was, it turns out to be a massive play in the game. As you mentioned, Gateway kind of rallied at the end, but I do think it was domination by Franklin Regional. And yeah, you normally don't have that much success against Gateway, but 2 of the last 3 years, man, the Panthers with big wins. And last time they beat Gateway, Sean, they won the conference title. So we'll see what happens this year.
I believe that was a pretty low-scoring game that they won in Murraysville a few years ago when they knocked off the Gators. This time it was certainly a much higher-scoring affair.
Yeah, if I remember right, Brad Birch, he played a little bit, but he was not close to 100% healthy at that time.
Well, it's interesting because El Sidro Bryant was their quarterback in this game, and he has played a decent bit, but I don't think he's necessarily their true starter. I think they have a freshman starter who missed the game, or at least missed the majority of the game with injury. I know he suffered a setback physically the prior week. So some people could point to that and say, oh, if Gateway's fully healthy, but the reality is that win's not coming out of the win column for Franklin Regional. They're in a really good spot, and we'll transition into our next topic because it all kind of ties in. Penn-Trafford got a much-needed victory because they had a really good second half, and it came at the expense of Kiski area. That also in that same conference, the Class 5A Big East Conference, 33-7 in favor of Penn-Trafford. And I said that, the one score with Franklin Regional and Gateway was a little misleading because of some late scores to make it closer. This is a little misleading because it was a much closer game until the Warriors really kind of put it away in the second half. But I think it was tied at one point in the third quarter, or at least a one-touchdown game. So FR gets it going. PT gets it going. So now you see, okay, these teams are starting to maybe show what we thought they would be. That's a big win for them, because if they had fallen to 0-2 in the Big East Conference, which is where Kiski is now, that's really hard to overcome.
Yeah, and, just like if you're Latrobe, you can't really afford to lose. No offense to Armstrong, no offense to Kiski area, but you just can't afford to lose to those teams. But those teams are, even though they're probably going to finish at the bottom of the conference, they're certainly capable of coming up and knocking off anyone, I think. You look at Kiski's game against Gateway. Was it a blowout, 28-7? I don't, not as much as it used to be, right? Or, if those teams would play. So that was definitely a big win. And I don't know that Penn-Trafford this year is ever going to, win games with style points necessarily. I talked with John briefly after the game, Ruane, and, he said we still need to put up more points. Even though they scored put up 33, he said there were some opportunities missed by us, and we cannot continue to do that, when it comes down to playing these, good teams. 7-7 early in the third quarter. Penn-Trafford scores, or I should say Kiski scores, I should say, to make it 7-7 early in the third quarter. And really the biggest play of the game, Sean, was Michael Cheplik returning the ensuing kickoff, 98 yards. It gave Penn-Trafford a 14-7 lead. and it completely turned their momentum. I'm going to ask Tasso Whipple, our player of the week, about that, just about how the momentum turned at that point. But we're getting a chance to look at the play right here. It was incredible, the stiff arm, the speed. That was certainly exciting. So not only do you go up 14-7 with the touchdown, but it's just how everyone, the sideline goes crazy and just, turning the momentum to Penn-Trafford. And how about the last touchdown, Sean, scored by Cody Yakimelli?
Yes.
That last name kind of sounds familiar. That was nice to see. I think he's only a freshman, so I'm sure we'll be seeing him more and more once Tasso Whipple retires / graduates. But yeah, as you mentioned, that's a win they have to get regardless of how they do it, and they used a big second half to get there.
Jeplik had been awfully close to breaking one before. I think one negated by penalty. So I know that they are very happy that special teams came up in a big way. And again, they were in a battle on the road, but they found a way to make it work in the second half. So now this is where this all kind of ties together. It's crazy that we're halfway through the season, but we're already thinking about the significance of some of these games in terms of where the conference stands. Franklin Regional is 2-0. They are the only team in that conference that is 2-0. Woodland Hills is 1-0. Their victory came pretty convincingly against Penn-Trafford at Penn-Trafford. Then Greater Latrobe, Penn-Trafford, and Gateway are all 1-1. 0-2 for Kiski Area Armstrong is 0-1. So really what this tells me is Franklin Regional is in a great spot. But if you're Latrobe, if you're Penn-Trafford, if you're Gateway, 1-1, you feel like these games are absolutely crucial and you probably can't afford to fall any further behind. So it's really interesting. And then the new wrinkle that we've talked about a few times, Flick, the committee gets to choose some wild card teams. And I was talking to Ron Brady, Greater Latrobe's head coach. He doesn't know. We're just speculating. But you look at how good the Allegheny 6 conference is. Bethel Park, Peters Township, South Fayette, and Upper St. Clair are all 5-0. All 4 teams are 5-0. We mentioned Upper St. Clair with their impressive victory. South Fayette just knocked off Belverna. We'll get to that. Peters Township, the defending champs. Bethel Park has some impressive victories as well. So that conference feels absolutely loaded. Maybe the silver lining for the Big East Conference is that other conference, the third conference in Class 5A, that has Pine Richland, Penn Hills, and then North Hills, and then probably a big drop-off. Plum, Shaler, Fox Chapel, which happens to make maybe Penn-Trafford and Plum a massive game, even though it is not a conference game. So these are things to some extent existed before with Gardner points, but it just seems like everything is evaluated so much differently that so many of these non-conference games probably hold similar to or the exact same amount of weight as conference games would.
Yeah, and there's going to be so much, whenever they announce who the wild card teams are, there's going to be so much arguing and,
someone's going to still find a way to complain, no doubt.
Yeah, they're complaining. There's no doubt about that. But the best way you can put yourself in a great position is to just win as many games as you possibly can. But you're right, Sean, that does make it interesting. Like non-conference games used to hold a little bit of water because if you were going for like a number 1 seed or something, the committee can look at that, look at your complete body of work and that type of thing. But now, as you mentioned, it means even more when you're talking about gaining a wild card spot and the change that that came into effect this year. So yeah, the non-conference games are certainly very important. If Penn-Trafford's going for a wild card spot and they lose this week to Plum, I don't think that's going to be looked at very favorably. So it certainly makes things interesting. Another interesting point is Penn-Trafford and Gateway haven't played yet. Latrobe and Gateway haven't played yet. So these are the things that I think coming into the year, looking at this conference with Latrobe moving into it, this is what really, I think, excites you for the season, how big these regular season games are, and they're still coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, don't forget about Woodland Hills. They might be the most impressive team at this point. And most coaches, I think, will say they are the most talented team. Whether or not that equates into them getting in the postseason or winning the conference, we'll see. But it's very interesting. I think that conference has gotten even better. And the fact that 12 teams get in now in Class 5A, it's going to be just incredible football for the next 5 weeks. Unfortunately, and one of those teams involved is Greater Latrobe, and they dealt with a major injury this past week that could potentially linger going forward. They're not the only Westmoreland County team So Alex Tash, a great player, a Penn State commit, was limited to just a half of football. He left to start the second half against Armstrong in a narrow win for Greater Latrobe, 14-0. He already was limited on the defensive side, just played a few snaps. He wasn't the only injury. We mentioned Norwin, Tristan Tavares, their star quarterback, who is having, I think, the best game he ever had as a runner, and maybe was going to find a way to upset North Allegheny. He goes out with injury. Unfortunately, what was a very close first half game turns into pretty lopsided before it was all said and done. So 36-14 in favor of NA, and now the Knights have to wonder, will they be without their star quarterback who makes everything work? It feels like those two injuries will have a massive impact, not only on those teams, but in the playoff landscape in both 6A and 5A.
Well, yeah, and go back and watch the game when Norwin and Latrobe played. Who were the two biggest stars? It was Tristan Tavares and it was Alex Tash. It was, certainly an exciting game seeing those two really go at it. And I was afraid of that, Sean. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago against when they played Norwin that Tash looked like he was going like this with his shoulder, and I didn't know, how maybe it was something normal, maybe something he just always battles through. And obviously he is battling. But right now, you have to wonder about his health and his long-term, health as well. That's something I think they have to keep in mind. I mean, obviously, you want to do everything you possibly can to have your team win, but he has more football to play past high school too. So I don't know if that's something that they have to consider. Johnny Wetzel actually was dealing with an injury in the game too. He came out and had to come back in to show.
There's a story about that, Dan. So he tweaked something. It wasn't major. He was able to stay in the game. But it happened early on, and it turned out to be a scoreless game until the fourth quarter. And they realized, we have to find ways to score. I think the plan was they did not want to use him running the football to try to preserve him a little bit. Guess who ended up scoring the first touchdown using his legs?
Yeah, right.
John Wetzel. Yeah. So, I mean, he's okay. He's going to be good to go. I don't know if Tash is going to play this week. We don't know if Tavares is going to play this week. Coaches don't really tip us off to this stuff because they don't want anyone knowing. And sometimes they don't even know until the entire week unfolds. But it does feel like either one of those teams without those players takes a significant drop down. Even if they have 5A and 6A sized rosters, you can't replace a player of that ilk. So it's going to have massive implications this week and potentially beyond.
Yeah, and I talked with Dave Franzak, and he said it was a real shame that Tristan got hurt because he thinks the game would have been close, certainly, and maybe Norwin could have pulled it off if he doesn't get hurt. As you mentioned, he was getting his legs involved early and had those 2 touchdown runs, and unfortunately, though, the injury sidelined him.
126 yards rushing against the 2-time defending 6A champions in less than a half of football. So he was making it happen. But yeah, again, he's out, and then we'll see about Tash as well. Those are 2 injuries to monitor going forward. That's going to do it for the biggest takeaways from week 4. We'll take a break. When we come back.
We'll Sean, wait, hold on. Before we go to break, am I allowed to make an announcement? It's a big announcement. Am I allowed to make it?
Go ahead, Dan. The floor is yours.
DBAT is coming to Westmoreland County. Did you know that?
I did, because I did their reads on Friday.
Yes.
Well, but I am just as excited as when I first found out.
Well, it's true. It's darn true. DBAT is opening a new location in Export. They're bringing the DBAT sports family right to Westmoreland County. It's going to be very exciting for the local athletes in our area, baseball and softball players. A 20,000 square foot state-of-the-art baseball and softball training facility. They'll have certainly the automatic pitching machines, the batting cages, lessons, speed, strength, and agility coaching, camps and clinics. Our good friend John Bachman opened a location a couple of years ago in Bethel Park, and now he's bringing it to Westmoreland County and exported. Some people were maybe watching going, Dan, why are you talking about baseball during a football show? Well, there are probably many folks watching that have daughters, nieces, nephews, sons that are baseball and softball players. Or folks that have nieces, nephews, sons, and daughters that play baseball and softball. So this is a big thing for Westmoreland County. This is, again, a state-of-the-art baseball and softball facility opening in December. dbatpiteast.com to get more information about it. They are already taking reservations for their cages, and you can actually have your birthday party there, Sean, if you'd like to do that. It's coming up, right?
I do have a birthday coming up, yes.
Yeah. So, and it's a big one. So if you want to have it at DBAT, I can talk with Bachman and he can hook us up.
By the way, you mentioned the connection between football and baseball. A heck of a lot of football players are good baseball players as well, especially the quarterbacks. I think Tavares is a baseball player. Obviously, we know Johnny Louver and a lot of the Penn-Trafford
Chase,
guys.
Lemke.
Yes. He's going to be continuing playing baseball.
Or I guess it'd be Lemke, Chase, actually.
Yeah, it's
but
okay.
yes,
I just let you slide on that.
I did
one.
that right. It was going so well. But yes, Chase Lemke.
Well, anyway, yes. And you, by the way, you did the website address a heck of a lot better than I did on Friday night. So
that is dbatpiteast.com. Seriously, though, check it out. It's opening in export in December already, just around the corner.
Well, good stuff, Flick. And now we will step aside, but when we come back, we will have the rest of the week, 4 scores and top performers. We also have a little bit later on plays of the week interviews with Mike Arone, the head coach of Derry area, and Tasso Whipple of Penn-Trafford, and a look ahead to this upcoming week with the Week 5 preview. That's as we continue right here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
Coming winter 2024, DBAT Pittsburgh East will be bringing the DBAT Sports family to Pittsburgh's East neighborhoods, featuring a 20,000 square foot state-of-the-art baseball and softball training facility with 4 dual Fungoman automatic pitching machines, 9 lesson cages featuring the best training tech in the game, including pro-sized baseball and fast-pitch bullpens, elite speed, strength, and agility coaching, professional baseball and softball instruction, 50-plus camps, clinics, party room, and a pro shop powered by pro-preferred brands Rawlings and Easton. Now offering Founders Club memberships. Learn more at dbatpiteast.com.
Drive like a champion with Bowser Chevrolet of Monroeville. You're always on the winning team with Bowser Chevrolet. Visit BowserChevrolet.com 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and get the power of Bowser in your hands. Customize your payments, apply for financing, get a value for your trade and more with the Bowser Express Store. See the full lineup of Chevy cars, trucks, and SUVs at BowserChevrolet.com. Bowser Chevrolet, where the power of Bowser is yours.
We roll along here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron each and every Wednesday. Sean and Dan talking about the biggest stories in Westmoreland County high school football, a little college football in the county as well. We've got a lot to get to coming up. We'll have our Plays of the Week segment, interviews with Derry area's head man Mike Arone, and Tasso Whipple, our Player of the Week of Penn-Trafford, and a look ahead with the Week 5 preview. But let's wrap up Week 4, running down all of the scores across Westmoreland County. Some of these we already touched on. Leechburg 35, Jeanette 13. You can go back and watch that one. The Blue Devils are now 5-0. Jeanette suffers its first loss. Ambridge area 27, Greensburg Salem 8. The Golden Lions, much like the Jayhawks, undefeated no more. They suffer their first loss of the campaign. That was a game that featured almost 300 penalty yards. Not the most fun broadcast I've had, even though it was a good environment and 2 pretty decent teams.
Chris Smith was excited about it, though, Sean. He loves penalties.
Yeah. A lot of people really enjoy penalties in the sport of football or in any sport. So the Golden Lions suffer their first loss. They'll have a chance to get back on the winning track this week as they begin conference play. Derry area wins via shutout, 21-0 over Indiana. We're going to hear from their head coach, Mike Arone, but a good win for the Trojans to now move to 3-2 on the season.
Yeah, looking at their game against Southmoreland coming up here, both teams with big wins and their tune-up games, I guess, if you will. As I know you're going to mention Southmoreland beating Ringgold, but Derry with a shutout for the first time in a good while. I think it was 2019 or something like that. So you saw Damari Robinson really get on track in that first half, had a big first half, a little bit banged up. I'd say Derry's a bit banged up coming into their game against the Scotties, but some minor injuries, nagging injuries that they kind of have to deal with. You look at the second half, Sean, Indiana actually did move the ball much better. They recovered an onside kick, first of all, to start the second half. They moved the ball down the field, but Derry was able to come up with a big goal line stand, and then they take the ball. They don't score, but they went like 15 plays or something like that. They almost killed the entire rest of the third quarter, and at that point the game was over. So A big time, win for them, even though it's non-conference, trying to gain some momentum going into conference play. And as we mentioned last week, we talked about Greensburg-Salem maybe being banged up at this point, and the teams in this conference, I mean, you have to somehow be able to try to stay healthy when you finally get to conference play. We talked about that last week. So I'm sure Derry is not the only team, in this conference, the interstate, that's banged up coming into the start of conference play.
Yeah, Kai Bruno played very limited snaps on offense. He was darn good when he did, but he was out there pretty much the entire time on defense. So it looks like they're trying to limit him a little bit, playing mostly one way. You have to wonder now, you start conference, does that go out the window if he's getting, close enough to 100%? But tough loss for the Golden Lions, a good win for the Trojans. You can go back and watch either one of those games as well. You can also go back and relive North Allegheny scoring a 36-14 win over Norwin. And as we mentioned, Franklin Regional edging Gateway in a big 5A matchup. It is 36-34 in favor of the Panthers. Other games across the county from a week ago, Pittsburgh Central Catholic impressed Roger Downs and impressed the Hempfield area Spartans. A 42-0 win for the Vikings over Hempfield area. Rough go of it for the Spartans against an absolute juggernaut in Class 6A. Penn-Trafford 33, Kiski area 7. We talked about that one and how the second half surge was much needed for the Warriors. We also briefly touched on Greater Latrobe's 14-0 win over Armstrong. They didn't have the offensive performance they wanted, but the secondary in particular, outstanding for the Wildcats against a pretty prolific passing attack for Armstrong. South Fayette 27, Bell Vernon area 14. The Leopards' second consecutive loss. They are 1-2. South Fayette's a really good 5A team, so no shame in that. But right now, it just doesn't feel like this is the same caliber of play that we saw the last 2 years. But I guess it would be hard to match that for Bell Vernon. They won consecutive state titles. They lost maybe the best player in the whole state. But right now, they just feel a little bit off. And I would say the unusual start to the season probably didn't help in that matter.
Yeah, it didn't help. No week 0 game, and the game against Aliquippa, you play one quarter and that's it. So it's still a work in progress, I think, for Matt Humbert's group. I mentioned that, I think, a couple of weeks ago, that it's just an unfinished product right now. And, Sean, we had a chance to visit their camps the last few years. You could definitely tell the difference, I think, this year with maybe more teaching than more going, this year. So I think that continues to, again, have new people in new spots and new faces and new positions and that kind of deal. But that would be a massive win for them on Friday, the get-right game maybe against Thomas Jefferson. Look at it the other way. They're not quite, playing their best football yet, and you got to go to TJ to play them. So that's going to be certainly a tough one.
The record of 1-2, and to be honest, probably would have been 1-3 had that game completed against Aliquippa. Doesn't look good. But then look at the teams they've played. Mm-hmm. They've played Aliquippa. They've played Central Valley. They've played McKeesport. They've played an undefeated 5A South Fayette, and now they play Thomas Jefferson. So it will actually, I think, get a little bit easier as this season goes along for the Leopards, but it won't get any easier this upcoming week. Southmoreland 32-15 over Ringgold. The Rams continue to be a competitive team, but the Scotties ultimately prevail on that one. They now move to 4-1 as they enter the conference ledger. Mount Pleasant suffers another heartbreaker. The Vikings fall to Laurel Highlands 21-20 in overtime. It feels like every single week we talk about Mount Pleasant playing a 1-point game. They won a game in overtime. They lose a game in overtime. They narrowly lost to Jeanette in a game that they led. So they have played in some very competitive games that have come down to the wire. Good high school football, win or lose, but you'd love to be on the winning end every single time. The Vikings are now under 500. They are 2-3 on the season. Blackhawk blows out York 57-6. The Cougars, they are leaking oil right now, their third consecutive loss. Freeport area 42-0 over Burrell as the Buccaneers drop to 0-5. This Freeport team's looking pretty impressive. And what that tells me, Flick, is that maybe Derry area, you go back to that game, the Trojans against the Yellow Jackets earlier in the season, Derry winning that one 21-7. That's a win that they could go back and look and say that is a big-time quality victory.
Yeah, I think so. And again, when it comes down to the end of the season for playoff seeding, that could play a role into it for sure. But yeah, that was definitely eye-opening, especially to see what Freeport's doing now.
Yeah, they are playing some good football. Quaker Valley 34-14 knocks off Valley. The Vikings are 0-5 on the season. Our Lady of the Sacred Heart 28-7 over Ligonier Valley. The Rams fall to 2-3. Greensburg Central Catholic needed a win. The Centurions got it. A 22-point victory against Brentwood. 34-12 against the newcomers to the Class 1A Eastern Conference Spartans. And a showdown of undefeated teams goes in favor of Fort Cherry as the Rangers knock off Monessen 35-14. Fort Cherry is now 5-0. The first loss for the Greyhounds. They were one of those three teams in Westmoreland County that entered undefeated entering week 4 of the season. And on the college side of things, we had a front row seat for Seton Hill's thriller against Westchester. Second straight week that the Griffins get the winning score in the final minute or so as they win 27-24. You can go back and watch that one. The Griffins are now 2-2 on the season, their first ever victory against Westchester. And I have a feeling we might see a particular play from that game, but overall, Flick, it was kind of a crazy back and forth game. And ultimately, the Seton Hill defense, I think, forcing 5 turnovers. They were a story, but you still needed to see it enough from the offense. And finally, they came through late.
Yeah, it was kind of an ugly game for both teams. Seton Hill, I thought, they were losing at one point with a 24-14. And at that point, I'm thinking, man, if they lose this game, they're really going to not be happy with themselves because they did have some opportunities to score and they were squandering opportunities. But hey, man, second straight week, comeback kids do it again. They were down 14-3 the week before against Bloomsburg, win 15-14. Here they're down, again, 24-14, and they win 27-14. So they're making just enough plays. It doesn't matter when they come. And I know Dan Day, it doesn't matter how they win. The fact that they're winning, is huge. And I mean, this is a program, Sean, I think we can safely say they've turned the corner. I'm not saying they're going to win a championship this year, but they beat a Bloomsburg team that traditionally is very, very good. Are they as good this year? No, but a good program. And Westchester, first time they've ever beaten them in school history for, football history, certainly. So that was quite an accomplishment, no matter how good or bad Westchester is this year. So I think we're now at a point where this Seton Hill football team is competitive year in and year out.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, the same could not be said on Saturday for St. Vincent. They were not able to overcome a prohibitive favorite in Grove City, as it's a 56-7 final in favor of the Wolverines. By the way, if you haven't yet, check out the Westmoreland alum Q&A with Grove City standout Jack Jolly, formerly of Penn-Trafford. You can also check out Robbie Labuda at St. Vincent. Ironically, I didn't plan it like that, but yeah, Robbie Labuda of St. Vincent, who played, of course, at Mount Pleasant area a couple years ago, both up on our website right now. That'll do it for the week 4 scores. Let's now look at the top performers of the week, the top passer, rusher, and receiver in the WPIAL, and then some notable names from Westmoreland County as well. The top passer came by way of East Allegheny, Cedric Mack, 363 yards passing on 28 of 46. The top guy in Westmoreland County, once again, the freshman Anthony Smith. He has had a very good campaign. He completes 9 of 18 attempts for 172 yards. Just behind him, Franklin Regional's Chase Lemke at 165, Raiden Kuroda of York, 139, Dom Dietrich of Hempfield, 120 yards, and Curdy Wade of Bell Vernon area, 118 yards through the air. Zaire Williams of Deer Lakes is the top rusher in the WPIAL with 248 yards for a very good Lancers team. Just about 20 yards behind him is Franklin Regional's own Kyle Dupill, I should say, 226 yards. Then Tasso Whipple with 185. We'll hear from him in just a bit as our Westmoreland County Player of the Week. Tristan Tavares, in a outing shortened by injury, goes for 126 on the ground for Norwin. Damari Robinson of Derry area, 125. And Alex Tash, also shortened because of injury for Greater Latrobe, rushes for 117. And the top receiver in the WPIAL, South Allegheny's Drew Cook, who had 6 receptions for 156 yards. Cole Doppelhauer, Bell Vernon area, also had 6 grabs, his spanning 118 yards. That'll do it for the top performers. We will step aside briefly when we come back. The always popular Plays of the Week segment. And a little bit later on, we'll talk to Mike Arone and Tasso Whipple and a look ahead at the Week 5 preview. That's all as we continue right here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
Get to Mike Hamlin Hyundai during the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. Drive the new 2024 Hyundai Elantra SEL or Tucson SE with 1.99% financing for up to 60 months. All vehicles are backed by the Mike Hamlin Advantage oil changes for life.
Along the arc of a woman's life, there are many passages. Growing up, chasing dreams, building a career, embracing wisdom born of experience. There are times that make good health and well-being so vital. We provide care that helps women thrive at any age, at any stage. Independence Health System. Expert care here.
Welcome back to Westmoreland on the Gridiron and Flick. We have a lot to get to still, but I don't want to waste any more time because you know what time it is right now?
It is time for Plays of the Week.
You got it. So we will begin Plays of the Week with Derry area, and the Trojans were dominant defensively in their win against Indiana, but the offense provided some big plays too, including a bomb from Anthony Sacco to Damari Robinson that set up DA for its third score of the opening half, as called by John Flickinger and Bob Lisinski.
What do you think here? Trips to the right, try to get part of this back and then go for it on fourth down. We'll see. Empty backfield, Sacco back. Protection, throws, Damari! Got it!
Wow.
Down to the 8-yard line, and Sacco threw a dime in there. Right in the breadbasket.
Yeah, how did he thread that? Wow, 31-yard completion on that, but just take a look at that.
Steps into it. In between the corner and the safety, and Damari's able to hang on down to the 4-yard line. Outstanding execution that time.
Well, the touchdowns themselves last week, Sean, actually weren't really that exciting. Derry scoring 3 of them, but that play was a big one that set up the short touchdown run. And Mike Arone joked around before the season started. He said, I'd like to add a couple of inches to Anthony. But I'll tell you what, man, he has a really strong arm. He showed it right there. And Damari Robinson in between 2 defenders pulls it down.
Yeah, really nice play. And again, they had like 3 touchdowns that spanned maybe 4 yards. So we had to go a little off the board there, but that's certainly very deserving of plays of the week. Well, here's a play of the week that was a touchdown for Greensburg-Salem. And although the ending was not what the Golden Lions hoped for, it was an impressive start to the game at Offutt as Peyton Chismar delivered a clutch play on fourth down to put his team in the lead against Ambridge, with myself and John Bainbridge providing the commentary.
The ball's at the 24-yard line. Peyton Chismar steps up. We've already seen him use his legs. Throws this downfield, and it is caught into the end zone by Dan. What a play by Cooper Dan, and Peyton Chismar not crossing the line of scrimmage for a 24-yard touchdown.
That was a great decision by Chismar there. It looked like he was going to tuck it and try to get the first down himself, but the corner from Ambridge bet came up, tried to make the tackle on Chismar. Really a nice touch on the pass.
To all the Golden Lions fans that were watching, they probably thought, man, Greensburg-Salem's going to roll. They're going to stay undefeated. I mean, you go down opening drive, touchdown, and everyone's going crazy, and then it just didn't happen. The penalties certainly added up against the Golden Lions, and they end up losing their first game of the season, but a great start for Greensburg-Salem. Unfortunately, they couldn't do much with it.
Yeah, and also there was a big man interception that was going to probably be on plays of the week, negated by penalty. So Isaiah Stillwagon had a pick. He's like 330 pounds. Awesome play. I said, that's going to be plays of the week. And then, of course,
you jinxed it.
Out.
It's your fault.
Yeah. I mean, I thought about using it, but that play by, Chismar was really good as well. So that one did count. Decided to go the safe route there. We've already done one with the Tasso Whipple hurdle. So
That's
we've
true.
already
We
reached our quota with penalties making plays of the week. We continue plays of the week with Franklin Regional, and while the Panthers relied heavily on the running of Kyle Dupill in the win against Gateway, the passing attack also came up big. Chase Lemke and Elijah Bennett hooking up for a fourth quarter touchdown to extend their lead, with Jonathan Whaley painting the picture.
High snap, but a good job to hold it late, throwing it down the middle. The ball's up in the air. Ball is caught. He's going to take it to the 20, to the 10. Touchdown. 65 yards. What a well-designed play. Excellent throw by Lemke against one-on-one coverage. He put it where it needed to be. Elijah Bennett gets the touchdown from 65, his third touchdown of the year.
Well, we talked earlier about the great success on the ground that Kyle Dupil had, but again, early on in the game, it was the passing game that was really getting first downs for the Panthers and touchdowns. And Chase Lemke able to hit Elijah Bennett with a massive play there, and turned out that Franklin Regional needed every touchdown it got to beat Gateway.
A good thing they got some of those insurance points because, as you mentioned, they certainly needed all. We continue plays the week with Norwin, and although he left with injury, Knights quarterback Tristan Tavares was on his way to a monster game at North Allegheny, primarily by using his legs. His wild 80-yard scamper put Norwin on the board, with Dave Franzak and Brian Brozeski detailing the touchdown.
Tavares is going to keep it himself on the design gate. Gets a block to the 25, gets to the 30, 35, 40. Got a grass in front of him. 40, breaks out of a tackle. 25, 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Tristan Tavares.
Yeah, and honestly, it sounds like the coaches saw the exact same thing, because right there, what they did is rather than throwing it, they just allowed him to be an extra blocker, and they took advantage of the Twins to the boundary or to the field side, put an extra blocker there, and Tristan did a great job of adjusting his blocking. They gave him a seam, and he was able to go ahead and run through it for a touchdown there. Great run, great execution.
Oh, I'll be honest with you, Sean. That's tough to listen to, knowing what ended up happening to him. Man, what that game could have been like. And hopefully, it's not as serious as maybe it sounds, but you'd hope at some point he can come back, this season. But that one was tough. You'd love to see what the game would have ended up if he would have stayed healthy.
Yeah, no doubt. Still, he delivered some big plays while he was in there again. Went over 100 yards on the ground in the first half against just a juggernaut program. And let's wrap up plays of the week on the college side with Seton Hill. And for the second week in a row, it was the Griffins who scored the winning points in the waning moments, this time at home against Westchester when Kyron Craigett found pay dirt with just over a minute left, with myself and Roger Downs highlighting the play.
And they have 2 timeouts remaining. Westchester has 3, by the way. That's worth noting. Craigett. And he is in! A 12-yard touchdown, and the Griffins have the lead.
Got a lineman down for Seton Hill. That's Newell.
Craigett's second score of the quarter. The only concern, Roger, is did it come too quickly?
Well, you know what? The Griffins are going to take it. And now they're going to have to rely on this defensive unit that has responded time and time again.
The comeback kids strike again. Kyron Craigett, he's becoming, I think, one of the best running backs, not only in the conference, but Division II. I think he's among the leaders nationally in rushing yards. And, man, the kid just, I don't think he's ever fully healthy, but he rarely comes off the field, doesn't miss games, doesn't miss many plays. And, he's just an absolute workhorse for Seton Hill. I don't know where they'd be without him. Had a great run there. Obviously, the guys up front did a great job on that play, too, because he was untouched going into the end zone. So the Seton Hill running game doing big things to get them to that win.
Yeah, and for those who might remember that last name, he had, of course, his brother played at Southmoreland, was great at Southmoreland and Greensburg Central Catholic prior to that. So, there's a lot of connections between the Craigetts and Westmoreland County. So glad to see him doing some big things at Seton Hill. That'll do it for Plays of the Week. We will step aside. When we come back, I will talk to the head coach of the Derry area Trojans, who are riding a 2-game winning streak, head coach Mike Arone. That's upcoming next right here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
Play It Again Sports in Greensburg is your locally owned and operated sporting goods store. We set ourselves apart by offering a wide variety of both new and used equipment at competitive prices. Located in the Greengate East Plaza, below Walmart, Play It Again Sports' knowledgeable staff will help you and your family prepare for every athletic season. Whether you're looking to buy, sell, or trade, we are here as your one-stop shop. At Play It Again Sports in Greensburg, everybody plays.
At Smale Kia, we know that winning takes hard work, dedication, and a commitment to excellence. By sponsoring Shining Stars, we'll select 2 teams each season to help fund their booster programs. Rewarding their hard work, athletic progress, and community service is an investment we're proud to make. Right now, lease a 2025 Kia Sportage EX all-wheel drive, $299 a month, or lease a 2024 Kia Forte LXS for only $175 a month. Route 30 East Greensburg or smalekia.com.
We continue here with Westmoreland on the Gridiron each and every Wednesday at 7 p.m. on the Westmoreland Sports Network. I'm now joined by Mike Arone, the head coach of the Derry area Trojans, coming off of a shutout victory last week against Indiana area, 21-0. First off, Coach, congrats on that. A very impressive performance, especially defensively. What did you like most from your team's effort against the Little Indians a week ago?
Well, thanks, Sean. Thanks for having me on. Last week was probably our best week of practice. We've been on our guys. It's typically 1 day a week. We don't practice well, but last week, 3 to 4 full days of good practice. It would have been nice to put some points up in the second half, but I like how we came out fast on defense, scored on offense, every first 3 possessions in the first half. So we played a solid game all around, but I still don't think we put 2 full halves together. So it'll be interesting to see, where we're at when we do that.
Well, you mentioned the good week of practice. Do you as a coach kind of have a sense before the game even starts how your team might perform based on what you see Monday through Thursday?
Yeah, I think you get a feel for that. It's not a secret that, games are won between Monday and Thursday, and Friday's just the reward for the hard work you put in during the week. We tell our kids that. So they've practiced hard all year, but again, they are high school kids. They're in school all day. So, there are times when you just don't like what happened in practice, but our kids have been great about responding when we challenge them from a bad practice. But I definitely think you can get a sense there of, if you're prepared or if you're not prepared.
Going back to that win in the first half success that you had offensively against Indiana area. Obviously, a lot of it's on the ground, but I know Anthony Sacco had a really nice deep pass to Damari Robinson as well. Anthony's a guy who probably gets overlooked a little bit with your offense since most of it is ground-based, but what has he shown and how has he developed from the start of the season to this point?
Yeah, he's really come along. He was a sophomore quarterback week 0, making mistakes, didn't have a whole lot of experience, but he runs the offense real well, always has. He makes good decisions, and he's really come along in the passing game, again, of making even better decisions and making the right decisions and taking care of the ball. So we know we're going to need him to perform. I think we need, moving forward in a conference play, we're going to need more of those splash plays or big plays through the air. And I think he can provide those for us, but we're still going to be careful and plan that accordingly to pick and choose our spots when we want to take those chances.
You highlight splash plays. No one creates more of those for you than Damari Robinson, and he's been really good for a few years now, but he definitely took a back seat a year ago to Ahmad Ward. He's now become the guy. So how has he handled that opportunity to go from Robin to Batman now in 2024?
I think he thrives in that role. We knew we wanted to get him the ball more, and after week 0, we made that decision to just put him at tailback. He had never really played there with any consistency, so there were some concerns. Is he going to be able to run up in between the tackles? He's shown that he can do that. He's a team player. He just wants to win. So he's doing whatever he can do to make the team better. So whether that's at tailback, whether that's at Z, whether that's at wideout, we're doing as many things as we can to get the ball in his hands, and he's really responded. So we're going to continue to need that going forward from him. A lot of touches, a lot of big plays, and he knows that's his role on the team. And like I said, he's really thriving there.
Your team got an addition, and certainly a pretty notable one, in Dylan Pitzer, who transferred over from Mount Pleasant area. Now, I know he's in the news a little bit because of his inability to wrestle, it appears, this upcoming winter, but he has been making an impact. So what has stood out about his play, and how was that process of getting him acclimated to your team and vice versa?
So, he plays mostly on the defensive side of the ball. He did get a few snaps last week offensively. So it's just been a slow process. It can be somewhat easier to transition into a defensive role, especially a defensive line role. where, it was just, here's where you have to line up, get hands on, and go find the ball. Yeah, he's a big athletic young man. He fits in really well with our guys. It's like he's been here forever. So, a kid with that size, obviously, can be a force to reckon with, and he has been. Can he get a whole lot better? Yeah. There's still little fundamental things we talk about with Dylan that we expect, not getting too far up the field in the backfield, making sure we get hands on people. So he's coming along. He's very coachable, and he really looks like he's having fun. So we're real happy to have him.
Who else has kind of flown either under the radar or maybe exceeded expectations that you've had that have been instrumental in the team's success so far?
I can't give enough praise to our entire offensive line. We talk about Ethan Bendel at center and Owen Monick at guard, Colin Barkley and Chase Lucan at guard, Aiden Piper at tackle, and Jay Candle at tackle. Those guys we've created a good rotation, and they've just, again, been the engine that has made our machine kind of go. But I look at guys like, Brett Klim on the defensive side of the ball. Had a real good game last week with, I think, 7 tackles. He's our leader on defense. He calls our defenses. He makes sure we're set up correctly. He doesn't get a whole lot of recognition, and he doesn't care. In the Burrow game, he's kind of small for a free safety, and we needed a little more beef when we're playing defense, and he didn't play a whole lot, but that was okay with him. And that's what leaders do, because we got to win. Guys like Max Doperak and Ricky Daniels on the outside. We don't throw the ball a whole lot, but those guys have been doing a real good job blocking, and that's what we told our receivers. If you want to be on the field, you have to be able to block. Max Doherty and Vinny Dudzinski on the defensive side at outside backers, they set the edge. They play real well. We have a lot of unsung heroes, but it seems our guys don't really care if they have name recognition. They just want to go out and win football games.
I know it was such a big accomplishment to make the postseason last year. To see your team now have a winning record so far this year at the halfway point, how significant is it that they seemingly have carried some of that momentum from a year ago over to this year, as opposed to really taking a big step back after losing some key guys?
Well, that's obviously the goal, is just to continue to get better, and that's the message we've been telling our team since the end of last season, that we were 5-6 last year, and that's just below mediocre, and our goal is never to be mediocre. It's to get better. So, it's nice going into conference play with a winning record, but we know that we have our work cut out for us moving forward. But the ultimate goal is to win a conference championship, and it's a very difficult conference. It's not going to be easy to do, but I like the attitude of our guys. Like I said, they come to work every day, every practice, and their confidence is starting to build and build and build. So we just have to foster that as coaches, and hopefully we can stack up some wins.
And that goal, as you mentioned, in the conference begins this week against Southmoreland, another team that is trying to build some success year after year. We all know they're looking for that first playoff win, but they've been impressive this year, and they're doing it with a freshman quarterback. So when you look at them on film, what challenges do the Scotties present to you?
A lot. Offensively, they're very good. Put up a lot of points. They can beat you through the air, but they will also spread you out and run the ball very well. So, yes, the quarterback, he gets rid of the ball quick. He's accurate. He has a strong arm. He is only a freshman, but he sure doesn't play like it. They're improved up front, and they're improved defensively. So they make you, again, it's a team, they make you cover the whole field. And if you try to take away the pass and leave them with a 5 or 6 man box, they're going to run the ball at you. And then if you make that adjustment, they're going to throw the ball at you. So we have to, this is going to have to be our best game that we play if we want to stay in it. But again, we're going to practice hard, and we're going to come prepared.
From a coach's perspective, what, if anything, changes when you go from the non-conference to conference play?
We've taken all year, we've taken the stance that, every game matters. So, even though there's a little extra added, I'm not sure from a coach's perspective that we look at it any differently. I don't think we can. I think we'd be doing our kids a disservice if we said the first 5 games don't matter, now they matter. We haven't taken that approach this year. We've wanted to win every game. So it's just the next game on the schedule to us, and that's how we're going to approach them all.
especially now in 2024 with being in a different conference that has a lot of local matchups. It's a very Westmoreland County friendly conference that you're in. How significant is the home field advantage or having fans that make the trek to some of these shorter road games?
Yeah, I think it's great just from a community aspect. Obviously you want to pack your stadium when you're at home. We're one of the few teams left that has, a natural surface. I don't know if that's an advantage or not. But it's just great to see the community excited. And home field can certainly be an advantage with your crowd and your student section. So we're looking forward to big crowds and rowdy crowds at every game. So we encourage everyone in the community to come out and enjoy Friday night.
Lastly, fill in the blank. 2024 will be a successful season for the Trojans if.
Oh man, you put me on the spot there. If we make the playoffs again, I'll leave it at that. I think that has to be a goal. And again, if we can stack together some wins, I think we can get there.
Well, Mike, congrats on the winning record to this point, and good luck on Friday against the Scotties.
Thanks, Sean. I appreciate it.
That is Mike Arone, the head coach of the Derry area Trojans. We'll take a break and continue with more right here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
D'Annunzio's has been making family favorites for almost 50 years. Of course, we have our classic pizza, pasta, and chicken dishes, but we also have luncheon and dinner specials selected by our kitchen staffs. We welcome you to join us at any of our 3 locations, Jeanette, Monroeville, and Latrobe. We're open 7 days a week. D'Annunzio's is on social media too. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram and visit our website, D'AnnunziosRestaurant.com.
We roll along here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron. Sean and Dan talking high school football. We're going to hear from one of the stars of the high school football slate this past week, Tasso Whipple of Penn-Trafford momentarily. But first, appreciate Coach Arone taking the time. I know your brother usually talks to him before, during, after. Well, probably not during at this point, but before and after games quite a bit. And
well, Espo interviewed him on the sidelines a couple weeks ago, so you can kind of say that's during, right?
Was that like coming out of the half?
Yeah, or going in. I don't remember. One of the two, but.
So. Hopefully they were winning at the time, because that's a much more pleasant interview when.
I think that was the Burrell game. So, yes, I want to say they were.
Yeah, they ended up being in pretty good shape that night. But yeah, he's doing a good job. Let's be honest. When he took the program over, they were in a bad spot. And it was so crazy to see they went from such a great program to, maybe the worst team in the WPIAL in a span of 3 years. And they're not back to being a great program, but they're back to being a very good program. And I think he has to get a lot of that credit.
Yeah, they're getting there. And I think that he has a really, really good coaching staff. I think I mentioned that on the show before, where Joe Myland, their offensive coordinator, who was the offensive coordinator, Tim Sweeney, came back to coach. Coach Polinsky is back. Derek Molnar, who previously coached at Derry, then Latrobe, then back to Derry. Coach Hissom, those guys, I mean, they really do have a great staff. And Mike, obviously, you can't be a principal without being a good leader, right? I mean, you got to have that trait. And so he had coached for such a long time as an assistant at Homer Center. So they really do have a good staff. And so they continue to get better. They really do have some good young players too. So I think this is a Derry program that, will they get back to Heinz Field, Acrisure Stadium? I don't know. But I think they are going to certainly be very competitive for the foreseeable future.
Absolutely. So from one interview to the next, as I mentioned, we're going to hear from Tasso Whipple. Yep. Settle that thing down.
Yeah, I always hit it. Good boy.
Yeah. Are you Italian?
I am, actually. Talk with my hands.
Yeah. Flying hands. Anyway, we're going to talk to Tasso Whipple, Flick, because he won the fans vote.
Yes, he did. And I do want to call out the Franklin Regional fans a little bit. I mentioned earlier that Kyle Dupill, I thought, had like one of the best performances in a Franklin Regional uniform ever, just because it's at Gateway in the swamp, 36 carries. I mean, are you kidding me? And, I thought the voting would be closer. I really did. But, they didn't get out and vote for Kyle. I mean, it is what it is. I'm reading.
Whaley has to rally the troops.
Yeah. Yes. Stuff the ballot box. I mean, you got to get out and vote. But Tasso, man, second time he's been named Player of the Week. Not this year, of course. Last year he was named Player of the Week once as well. We mentioned 14 carries, 185 yards, and a touchdown. And he's just so consistent, Sean. He stays healthy. Knock on wood for you. But, he's so consistent week after week, year after year, just doing what he's doing and really is so important to Penn-Trafford on both sides of the ball. But other than Kyle, we mentioned Damari Robinson, who is very valuable to Derry, especially with Ahmad Ward graduating. Damari, not the same style of running back, certainly, but, he has that speed. He's dynamic. And he had a real big week last week against Indiana, 125 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then Cole Doppelhauer, a guy that was kind of an all-purpose guy the last couple of years when he was playing behind Quentin Martin and all those players, had a really good game as a receiver, also returned an interception for a touchdown as well. And he's a multi-sport athlete. So, we see Cole doing some big things, football, wrestling, and baseball for Bell Vernon.
And just to put a bow on Tasso Whipple, I see the Warriors just about every week. He's really good defensively, too. I think he's their second leading tackler at linebacker. So we almost always base our player of the week voting on what people do offensively. That's just the reality of how football is evaluated nowadays at every level. But he gets it done defensively as well. So he is a
well. And for those wondering, Sean, I might as well just throw this out there. Offensive stats are most of the time easy to find, right? I mean, those are the ones that are in the papers. Those are the ones that are the stats that are given to us. But I do tell the coaches, hey, if you have a defensive standout, let me know. If you have someone that went off for 16 tackles and 4 sacks and an interception, let me know that, because those are stats that we don't see. And then we'll put them up for a nominee because they're certainly deserving of it. So we can only do what we have in front of us with the information that we have. But I'm off my soapbox now. I've called out Franklin Regional. I've called out all the coaches. I think I'm good now.
All right. Well, settle down. We'll take a break. When we come back, you can talk in a very level-headed manner with Tasso Whipple. That's upcoming next right here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
A lot of events with CSA, it's one of the things I love about this organization, and I'm just so proud of what we do in Westmoreland County, from prevention conferences, veterans conferences, youth summits. We help with national night outs. There's so many different events and things that we've pulled together that have been really cool over the years. The best thing to be involved in the county, this is it. So we have a lot of members and things of that nature, but we are looking for more people to join and be a part of the group that can really be a part of the core team and invest into the community. So.
I am the swiftest creature alive. I can make it. I will make it.
That's where we come in. The Collision Shop by Jason Mignon is your one-stop shop for all things auto body repair. Our experienced technicians and state-of-the-art facilities have you covered. Body repairs, refinishing, glass replacement, and more. Our friendly office staff is happy to assist you through every step of your vehicle's repair process. Visit thecollisionshopbyjason.com for our complete list of services.
And welcome back to Westmoreland on the Gridiron. It is now time for the part of the show where I get a chance to talk with our Westmoreland Sports Network Player of the Week. And as we mentioned earlier, a big congratulations goes out to Tasso Whipple, our Week 4 Player of the Week, of course, from Penn-Trafford. Tasso last week ran for 185 yards and a touchdown in the Warriors' victory over Kiski area. Tasso, you're a 2-time Westmoreland Sports Network Player of the Week. And I know you're very excited to get to talk to me again this year. Congratulations, man. Thanks for taking some time out.
Yeah, of course. It's an honor.
I don't know about that, but I appreciate you saying that, Tasso. Well, let's get into it. A big victory against Kiski area last week, considering especially that you lost to Woodland Hills to open conference play. So how big of a win was that to be able to bounce back and go to 1-1 in the conference?
Well, it was a big morale booster. We really did need that win, and some guys stepped up and really made it happen.
Yeah, and it was 7-7 at halftime, so the game was certainly kind of still up for grabs at that point, but you guys had a massive second half. What do you think allowed you guys to pull away in that second half?
Well, we had a good momentum change. We had Michael Chaplik ran a couple awesome plays, and the kick return was a big momentum shift for us, and we just took Cheplick's motivation and we ran with it.
Well, yeah, speaking of running with it, I want to ask you about your running style here in a little bit, but Cheplick's return, let's get back to that because that was incredible. We didn't broadcast the game last week, so it's not up for plays of the week, but it certainly should be. I mean, it was a ridiculous run, the stiff arm. Yeah. Take us through like what it was like, everybody getting together in film and watching that. That had to be awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of smiles on a lot of people's faces in the film room when we saw that. You know, we know that what he's capable of, and just watching him show it is a great feeling.
Now, Coach Wayne said he's maybe the fastest kid on the team. Do you have something to say about that, or do you agree that
he's very fast. Yeah, he's very fast. He does track. He's very successful in that as well, and you got to take advantage of that, and I'm happy he does.
Was there a lot of hooting and hollering when you guys watched back though during film?
Oh yeah, I mean, even watching it film, you could see the sidelines. Everybody was going crazy about that play. It was amazing.
And that's great when you can get a special teams touchdown, as you mentioned. Turn the momentum, and special teams always seems like it's been a weapon for Penn-Trafford since Coach Wayne took over years ago. Is that something that he consistently, continually harps on? Like, let's get a big special teams play and change the momentum.
Yeah, of course. I mean, special teams is still part of the game. It's very beneficial to be good on all sides of the ball. Special teams, offense, defense, it doesn't matter. You beneficial on all, you'll be successful.
Tasso, you're the definition of a workhorse, man. Not only do you get a lot of carries on offense, but you rarely come off the field on defense either. So how did your off-season training kind of get you ready for, handling this big workload? And maybe what are some of the things you do in season to keep your body conditioned?
Well, we all push each other, me and my buddies and the entire football team. We all push each other. We all start real early. We have a lot of just the work to do, and we had to get it done. Coach sets up a very, very beneficial workout plan, and we just follow it. And sometimes you go out and lift with your buddies too outside of that. And other than that, coach gets you ready.
So nothing too unique or anything. You just kind of follow the plan and kind of work with that and kind of work your butt off, right?
Do exactly what you're told to do and do it as hard as you possibly can, and you'll be successful.
Well, one of the things Coach Wayne said this year is how well you guys have moved the ball, but you haven't finished off enough drives, too many turnovers, penalties, things of that nature. He feels like even last week you guys could have scored more points than you did. How do you continually keep working on that, and how do you think you have to kind of get to that level you want to be at offensively, again, being able to cap off more drives?
Penalties are always a killer. We always got to stop those and got to be mentally disciplined, and I think we're slowly getting there. Practice is really harping on those type of things, and the more we practice it, the more we succeed in the game.
And even though, you guys went down 0-1 in the conference and the big bounce back against Kiski, I know you can't really look at this necessarily, but talk about how tough this conference is, because everybody, I think, has a chance to beat everybody. So, you guys went into that game against Kiski at 7-7 at halftime. Franklin Regional beat Gateway last week. Latrobe only, beat Armstrong by a couple of touchdowns. So this conference has to be fun to play in, but each and every week it has to be pretty tough, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, our conference is filled with great teams with great players with fantastic coaching. I'm just very, very fortunate to be on this side of the ball or the team that I'm on. I got Coach Wayne. I got the amazing line that, I was fortunate enough to have. The conference is a solid conference, and we just got to do what we got to do to win.
If someone asked you what your running style is, how would you respond to that? How would you, kind of define your running style?
Well, I guess there's two things. There's number one, always trust in the line. You got to trust the line and know where they're going to go so you can make the right cut. And being a running back at Penn-Trafford, you have to be tough. You have to have the work ethic to make yourself that tough. And that's how you're successful as a running back at PT.
Yeah, I was going to add that in, and you said it. So that was certainly something that, every Penn-Trafford running back we've seen over the years, they have to have that toughness element. You certainly have that. I know I asked you this last year when you won Player of the Week, but I got to throw in wrestling as well, or my man Chris Smith would probably take me down and get 2 points and pin me. How does that benefit you playing football? What are some of the similarities that you take from the wrestling mat to the football field?
Well, I mean, wrestling is a huge part of football. Every wrestler that plays football is always successful. They have amazing footwork, great balance, and I think that's why a lot of the successful wrestlers have what they have on the football field.
Yeah, I just saw a video. I don't know if you saw it or not, Tasso, but on Twitter, the one breakdown on Zach Frazier, the Steelers center, they were calling him Matt Frazier because he takes everyone down to the mat. I think it was Baldy doing his Baldy breakdown there. And of course, he was a state champion in high school. So it's pretty cool to see and how the two sports cross over.
Yeah, of course. I mean, one of my good buddies, Jameis Neary, is a fantastic example of that. He wrestled last year and he has amazing footwork this year. It's just the mentality that wrestling gives you. It's a good example of, it shows you what your body can truly do. It's all mental.
And you have to have that discipline. Certainly wrestling teaches you that. Now, when we spoke last year, you had mentioned that, hey, I still have about a year and a half to consider, what I'd like to do in college. And you still have some time, certainly. But has that picture become any more clear for you, what sport you'd like to participate in? And I'm sure you've gotten some interests on the football side and wrestling for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, football is, if I was going to, play a sport in college or go to college, it'd definitely be football. I love football and I love what it does to, you have another family, basically. That's what PT showed me. I'd probably be going to football for college.
Let's talk about the Plum Mustangs. I know it's a non-conference game, but certainly one that you want to win. When you kind of look at them on film, for you, what do they like to do, on their side of the ball on offense and defense, and what do you guys have to do to come away with a win?
Oh, they're a solid team. They got good players, good coaches. It's just you got to do it exactly what Coach Elaine says. Do what you're told and do what you're coached. It's kind of, you do that and hopefully you'll come out with a W.
Tasso, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, man. Congratulations on all your success. Go PT and go get a win against Plum on Friday night as well.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And Tasso, this is your last year, so you don't got to worry about me getting in your way during training camp again. I think that I've gotten your way twice now. The one time I think I actually went down 2 years ago. This year I stayed on my feet a little bit, but you did to me what you do to everybody, every Friday night. So I wouldn't expect anything less.
Thank you.
Tasso, thanks, man. Again, good luck.
All right, thank you.
That is Tasso Whipple, our Week 4 Westmoreland Sports Network Player of the Week. Coming up next, we will preview Week 5 games, including PT and Plum, right here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
It may be small, but it can bear over 4,000 times its own weight. And that's just the door hinge. Sturdy design, all the way down to the smallest detail. The Taos. Hop in. It's a VW.
For a great deal on a new 2024 Volkswagen Taos, visit Sendell VW in Greensburg. SendellVW.com.
Back to our final segment here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron. We appreciate Tasso Whipple, our Player of the Week of Penn-Trafford. He had the honor and privilege of talking to Dan, and so, of course,
he said it himself. He said it was an honor. I couldn't believe he said it. I don't think anyone's ever said that.
Checks in the mail. By the way, Flick, almost all the time we do have these archived as well. If you want to go back and watch on our YouTube channel, both the coach and players interviews usually on there. Sometimes the plays of the week are on there too. So a lot of good stuff on our YouTube channel. But we'll get to that right before we sign off. We'll plug all this stuff. First, we have to look at some really important matchups. And I'm a big fan of this week because not only is it the start of conference play for a lot of teams, it's a lot of Westmoreland versus Westmoreland matchups, including 3 of our video broadcasts are all Westmoreland battles. It begins with Kiski area at Franklin Regional, Derry area at Southmoreland, Mount Pleasant area at York. Those are all conference games for Kiski area and Franklin Regional. It's not their first conference game. They've been playing for a couple weeks in the Big East. For the Trojans, Scotties, Vikings, and Cougars, it is their first conference game in the Class 3A Interstate. We'll also have Plum at Penn-Trafford. We mentioned not a conference game, but significant nonetheless because of those 2 5A teams and the potential for wild card. Those are all on video. So we're bringing 4 games via video. And of those 4, I think all 4 of them in particular are pretty significant, especially those all Westmoreland County battles with bragging rights on the line.
Yeah, when they released realignment, this is like the week that I was really excited for, right? You have the interstate conference with mostly Westmoreland County teams, with the exception of Elizabeth Forward, finally start playing one another. So these games really do matter. As you mentioned, Mount Pleasant, York, Derry, Southmoreland, really exciting. Greensburg-Salem also has a big one against Elizabeth Forward. But then you also have the Big East, still going at it with Franklin Regional and Kiski this week, and then more big matchups coming down the line. So I know there's football that exists outside of these conferences, but these were the 2 conferences I was really excited for and to see how everything would kind of shake out.
And by the way, Plum and Penn-Trafford, not in the same conference, but they have been quite a bit over the years.
Yeah.
And I can speak as a Plum grad. It was always, a pretty anticipated matchup against Penn-Trafford. Probably not the biggest rival. Back in my day, it was Penn Hills, Gateway, Franklin Regional. But Penn-Trafford and Plum have been playing in a lot of sports for a long, long time. So that's a fun matchup as well. 2 pretty close communities there. So those are all highly anticipated in my eyes. Other games on the ledger this week, Hempfield area at Cannon McMillan. Man, the Spartans need to get a win in Class 6A. This might be an opportunity. I know the Big Macs are a solid team, but for the Spartans, this is one that they probably are going to have to win if they want to try to make a postseason push. Woodland Hills at Greater Latrobe. This could be a big one as well. We know the Wildcats probably not at 100%. I was very impressed by Woodland Hills, not just by Scoop Smith. Malik McLeod was very, very impressive when they defeated Penn-Trafford a couple of weeks ago. And I think Ron Prady realizes the significance of this matchup. So a lot of eyes will be on Memorial Stadium on Friday. Bell Vernon area at Thomas Jefferson. BVA 1-2, TJ 5-0. The just a juggernaut program for Thomas Jefferson. Bill Chirpak, we talk about him every year. But the Jaguars, I think, maybe this year they've been better than they have been in a half decade or so. That will be really tough for Bell Vernon area. But if any team has had success against TJ over the past decade, it's probably the Leopards. So we'll see what Matt Humbert's crew can do.
Yeah, this is a game, too, where I know the old cliche goes, throw out the records. It's probably going to be closer than what you'd expect. We'll see if that's the case or not. I wouldn't be surprised if Thomas Jefferson's able to kind of pull away. But, Bell Vernon, they're a scrappy team, certainly. They have that championship pedigree with the guys, that were on the team last year returning. So certainly a big, big game anytime these 2 teams played. And to be honest with you, Sean, we've broadcast Bell Vernon and TJ in the past with the games at Weir Stadium. We looked into broadcasting this game. I talked with Coach Chirpak a little bit, and, he had mentioned that tight press box, I guess there's some construction going on, so parking is limited. He was going through, and I'm like, you know what? We'll see you next year, Coach. We'll do the game when it's at Bell Vernon, where we're a little more familiar with there. So we're able to get some other games around Westmoreland County because of it.
Other games across Westmoreland County, Greensburg-Salem at Elizabeth Forward. Again, the Golden Lions trying to bounce back after their first loss. EF is 2-3, but they're a really good team. They've played very difficult competition so far. They are certainly the favorite in the Interstate Conference. East Allegheny at Burrell, 2 teams looking for their first win. Valley at Freeport area. South Allegheny at Ligonier Valley. The Gladiators have emerged as a really good team in Class 2A. That will be a stiff test for the Rams. Riverview at Greensburg Central Catholic. A little confusion. There was initial reports that was going to be a Saturday game at Riverview, but it is at GCC. Like, you have done your research and confirmed that, correct?
I have. I talked with Dan Mahoney. He said Friday at GCC. Confirmed.
And that's going to be a good game. Riverview is a very solid team. That will not be a cakewalk for the Centurions. Speaking of big games in the Eastern Conference, we talked about this before. If Jeanette had won and had been 5-0, this would have been maybe the game of the week. Instead, the Jayhawks reeling a little bit going in with the record of 4-1 at 5-0 Clairton. You want to hear a story about the Bears?
I do. I would love to.
They have not allowed a defensive touchdown through 5 games.
That is ridiculous.
Was that a good story? It's unbelievable.
How about the 3 Bears? No. Yeah, that's that sounds like a Clairton staple, man. That's crazy.
They are unreal. They are allowing 1.4 points per game, and the touchdown they allowed was in week 0 against Steel Valley, which, by the way, that's a team that played for a championship last year. That was, I believe, a special teams score or a defensive score. Either way, their defense has not allowed, I said a touchdown. They haven't allowed any points. They've had 4 consecutive shutouts against Sarah Catholic, Shadyside Academy, Greensburg Central Catholic, Fraser. It will be an impressive feat for Jeanette to get a touchdown in that game. We will see how it plays out. Jeanette has a lot of guys who can do it, but this Bears team, it feels almost like Tyler Boyd era Clairton right now here in 2024.
I don't know if it will make a massive difference, Sean, but the one good thing for Jeanette is they do get a couple of starters back that missed the last 2 games because of suspension, because of what happened at Ligonier Valley. So
you mentioned Lonnie Green, one of those
Lonnie
guys?
Green, one of them. Yeah. So if you're looking for a shot in the arm, at least going into this game, that's certainly one of them, or certainly a shot in the arm. I don't know if, Jeanette suffered some injuries. I have no idea against, Leechburg. You just never know coming out of a game. So hopefully they'll be healthy. Hopefully, they can kind of lick their wounds and make it a competitive game, because Clairton, like you mentioned, this isn't saying something negative about Jeanette. It's more about what Clairton has done this year.
And I think I might have mentioned it at the onset. It's worth repeating. Saturday, noon, Thomas Jefferson, the venue, because Clairton's Neil C. Brown Field, which is not going to be called that much longer, that now is under renovation. It will not be used for the rest of this year. So they'll be playing at nearby Thomas Jefferson on Saturday. A couple of non-conference, North Hills at Norwin and Monessen at Southside Beaver. No Seton Hill football this week. It is an idle week, or a bye week, if you will.
First time ever, by the way, that there's a bye. I think first time ever since we've been broadcasting.
Yeah, well, they played that week 0, so and also Mercyhurst left. So there's a lot of moving parts there.
Yeah.
But so they are off this week. They would probably like to be playing, to be honest with you, but they will start the PSAC West when they return to action next week. There will be one college game for Westmoreland County team. St. Vincent welcomes Waynesburg. Yellow Jackets 0-3. Bearcats looking for their second win Saturday at 1. Flick, final thoughts, things you want to mention? The floor is yours.
Did I happen to mention that DBAT is opening in Westmoreland County? I think I mentioned that earlier. Baseball facility, real big baseball facility opening in Export. Visit dbatpiteast.com if you would like to rent your cages right now. And maybe, again, you have a birthday coming up like Mr. Myers does. You can look into that as well. But no,
people are going to be wishing me happy birthday now, not realizing that my birthday is actually in November. But
well, it's still, but I knew it was like around football season. So
yes.
I still have a little while to get you a present, I guess. But anyway, yeah, it's going to be just a massive thing for the community for baseball and softball. So dbatpiteast.com, you can check that out. It'll be opening in December. But very excited about the matchups we have going on for you. 4 video broadcasts. First time this year we've had 4 broadcasts on video. And as Sean mentioned, many of the matchups, all Westmoreland County matchups. So really exciting stuff. And actually on Saturday, we'll have Seton Hill volleyball with no Seton Hill football going on. And they actually beat IUP yesterday in a big match, 3-2. And they're taking on Gannon, which is perennially just one of the best one of the best teams in the conference. So it should be fun on Saturday from the McKenna Center.
A lot of fun stuff, of course. And Friday night, check out the scores on the website, check out the recaps, check out the previews, check out the alum Q&As. We got plenty of stuff recruiting Thursdays as well. We got plenty of good stuff all week long. Of course, not just Friday night broadcasts, but check out the website and our YouTube and social media each and every day. That's going to do it for this edition. But Flick, you can catch us right here next Wednesday. But yep, right here. Let's put a bow on this one. We'll sign off. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you again next time right here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
Good night.